know what's happening next week? We are celebrating 3 years. Come on, somebody. Journey is turning 3, and one of our values around here is celebration is our response. And so, you know what that really means? We're throwing a party. So come on out, bring some friends. How about this? Invite 3 friends because Journey's turning 3. All right, so show up next week, and we are going to throw a party. I'm not going to tell you all that we're going to do, but it's going to be something you do not want to miss. Be here in the house, and it's going to be special as we celebrate God's faithfulness and just, oh, come on. I can't. I need to contain myself. Help me, Lord. Help me. I don't know about you, but I think we live in a world, a day and age where everyone's looking for happiness. Everybody's looking for something, someone, something that can make them happy. And I want to first highlight some things that just right off the table, they're not going to make you happy. How about that? All right. Here are some things that will not make you happy. The first is this: things. The collection of things, the abundance of things, just going after the next thing. The reality is something, it could be a new car, it could be a new house, it could be a new girlfriend, it could be a new, we think of some things that will make us happy. But everything will begin to fade. Everything will begin to wear, and the newness will wear off, and it will no longer have its hold. It will no longer have its weight. It will no longer fulfill. It will not make you happy. The next is constant pleasure. If you're always looking for pleasure, always looking to be entertained, always looking for that next thing, I just got to have pleasure, you are going to be left wanting. It will not satisfy. It will not make you happy. The third is avoiding problems. Come on, somebody. We're just going to move all those problems aside and not really deal with this. No, that's not going to make you happy. Jesus said, in this life you will have trouble. You're going to have problems, but take heart. So in the middle of your problems, take heart. Have courage. Why? Because God is with you, and he's overcome the world. And how is it that he's overcome the world? How do we tap into that? It's through our faith. We'll talk more about that another week, but hear me. These are things that their happiness is not going to be found from these things. I love this proverb because it communicates something that we all deal with in our human nature. Proverbs 27 says, just as death and destruction are never satisfied, so human desire is never satisfied. We have desires, human desires, natural desires that will never be satisfied. That means you have an appetite for things. You have an appetite that will never fully and finally be satisfied. You'll always be wanting something. You'll always be wanting something new. And so what do you and I do with that? As believers, as followers of Christ, as ones who are wanting to align our lives in a way that is beyond just the here and now, beyond just our earthly lives. What does that look like? How do we live this out? I want to share, I believe there is a way. I believe Jesus introduces it. He communicates it, and we're going to highlight that today. I want to ask, have you ever thought this? Have you ever thought, man, I really thought that would make me happy, but it didn't. You ever had that thought before? There is a way that seems right to man, but in the end it leads to death. Separation from God, that's what it really means. We have ideas of things that we think will make us happy, and then we obtain those things, and we're left wanting, and we're not happy. I think we've all been there before. How many of you have heard this before? Money won't make you happy. Anybody hear that? Money won't make you happy? How many of y'all would like to test that theory? Like, hey, sign me up for that. I want to be the first in line. Give me thousands and thousands of dollars, and I'll put it to the test. Try me, right? Money won't make you happy. How many believe that money won't make you happy? How many believe that? Got some there? Do you really? Money won't make you happy. Here's a thought. There is a connection with happiness and money, but it's not what we think. See, the reality is, for many of us, we think that if we just have more, we'll be happy, right? If we just have more, we'll be happy. But there is some deception there because more never satisfies. Let me ask you this question. How much more money would it take to make you happy? How much more money would it take to make you happy? We can ask this question, And the reality is we all are in different places today in our lives and our economic status and in our livelihood. We're all in a different place. But the answer for us is the same to this question. How much more money would it make you happy? Here's the answer. More than you currently have. That's the answer. Money, if we just had more than we currently have, then I would be happy. But how many know that's deceptive? Because most likely you have more today than you did in past years past or decades past. Are you happier? Maybe, maybe not. I think this concept, Andy Stanley writes a book on it called How to Be Rich. I think some of that premises comes from even what John D. Rockefeller shared, one of the most wealthy people in America years and years ago. And he shared when asked this, he says, how much money is enough? And he famously answered, just a little bit more. Wow. The reality is I think we're all left there with that itch that, if I just have more. But in reality, it's not more. It's another M word. And that M word is managed. It's not if we have more money. It's how well we manage what we have. Is it managed well? See, I think one problem to many of us and our happiness in our lives is mismanaged things. When you and I mismanage our schedule, we mismanage our time, it is going to lead to frustration. You are going to be dealing with all kinds of things that are not going to be pleasant. If you mismanage your money, you're going to experience stress and anxiety, and nobody likes those. And then those things add on to complications in your relationships. Come on, somebody. A lot of it is just a mismanagement of what we already have. And so we need to get an understanding, well, how do I manage and how do I really deal with what I have? Because money in and of itself is a very small thing. But it is a big competitor to our hearts. And it is a great deceiver of our minds. And we're going to talk about that today. It's not how much you have. It's how well you manage what you have that will determine whether or not you can be happy where you are in life, content. Let's dive into what Jesus said. In Jesus' time in Luke chapter 16, he begins to talk about this, and he begins to present this idea, and he says this, no one can serve two masters. So think on this just for a moment. No one should serve two masters? Is that what it says? Help me out. No, it's no one what? Can serve two masters. So he's simply saying it is impossible. You can try all day long, but at the end of the day, you can only serve one master. And we're like, well, I don't even serve a master. Well, at the end of the day, we're all serving something. So Jesus sets this up. It's not possible. You can only serve one master. And then he says, either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. Okay, so, well, Jesus, what are you talking about? Same verse, next part of the verse says, you cannot serve both God and money. So this is what he's talking about. This means to tell me that the biggest competitor for our hearts is money. The biggest competitor for hearts. But it's not just money, because this word actually in really old translations, I think the King James Version, it didn't say this. It says, you cannot serve both God and mammon. Anybody remember that translation? It really means more than money, because money is just, bills, coins. That's not what it means. What the real understanding is, you cannot serve both God and stuff. It's stuff that you have, stuff that you want to have, more money to get more stuff that you think you need. It's stuff. It's the acquisition of stuff. It's a desire for stuff. It's the stuff that you already have. That's what it's talking about. And if you even go deeper, he's really communicating there's a spirit on it. There's a spirit on it that will not satisfy. But just let's stay more surface for a moment. So the chief competitor to your and I, our devotion is stuff. Let's go back to the first part of that verse. You cannot serve two masters, all right? Touch on that. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. So he's revealing to us what happens when we love. And who do we love? Do we love money and stuff, or do we love God? And how do we know who we love or what we love? Well, he's given us the answer by what we're devoted to. You see that? What are you devoted to? Well, now that's an altogether different question. How many of us are devoted to our stuff or the acquisition of more stuff? And if you measure that up, is that devotion greater than our devotion to God? Well, no, we would never say that, not in our hearts, but in reality, how does it measure? Where is our allegiance? What are we serving? Who is our master? There's a lot here. And the reality, like I keep saying that, but it's real. This is life. We don't have a do-over. Jesus is speaking to us, to our hearts. He's saying, he's revealing something. Hey, you can't serve two masters. And what we're going to talk about today is the fruit or the byproduct of which master you're serving. And I believe that people are going to get set free today and bring some awareness, and God's going to help some people to be able to get free some of the things that maybe have tripped you up or held you back. And so, I'm going to ask a question to help us maybe reflect for a moment. Has your desire for something ever caused you to do something stupid? Anybody been there before? Yeah, late night watching something on TV. Oh, yeah, I'm going to buy that off that infomercial. What was I thinking, right? And now, hear me now. I'm not, there's no comma here. So I'm not saying has your desire, for something ever caused you to buy something stupid. I'm not calling you stupid, right? But we all might call ourselves stupid at times for things that we bought. Why, what was I thinking? Why did I buy that? Let me ask you another question. Has your desire for something ever caused you to do something you regret? You get short-sighted and you pursue something that, oh man, I regret making that decision. I regret the lost time with my kids. I regret the decision I made. That we've all found ourselves there. And how did that happen? It's because our desire for led to our devotion to. And our desire for led to our devotion to, which then in turn, the realization, maybe we didn't think it then, but now we're looking back, we were being mastered by something. We were being mastered by our desire or devotion to stuff. We were being mastered by another master. Not God, but the root of our desire. So what I'd like to highlight briefly, 3 enemies of happiness. And really, I believe all of these are a byproduct of serving, not God, but serving money, serving stuff, or the acquisition of stuff. And they're enemies to happiness. And the first is discontentment. Discontentment says, I'm never satisfied with what I have because I know what you have and I know what I can have. Discontentment takes our richly blessed lives and suddenly makes them not enough. Let me ask you a question. How many of y'all today are living in the answers of prayers you prayed years ago or decades ago? Come on, somebody. You and I are so ridiculously blessed. Some of us have more than we know what to do with. And yet, there is something itching many times in our hearts or minds saying, I've got to have more. And we become discontented with what we have because we become more aware of what somebody else has or what we can have that we don't currently have, and we lack contentment because of it. And it is a trap every time. This is why Jesus is being very clear. You and I cannot serve two masters. And if you choose to serve one master that is not God, but rather money, the collection of it, and all this stuff, you will find yourself discontented, left wanting, unsatisfied in this thing called life. Well, I don't know about you, but I know I've been there before, discontented, missing completely missing what's right in front of me because of what I'm seeing that's out of my grasp. And that is nothing but being hoodwinked by the enemy. Jesus came to give us life, and abundant life. It's the enemy who came to steal, kill, and destroy. Jesus wants to give us life to the full. Wants to bless our socks off ridiculously. Oh, help us, Lord. And so there's times that we see something that we feel like, oh, we've got to have it. Have you ever gone to a store and you didn't even know that thing existed? And then all of a sudden you had to have it 15 seconds later? Come on, somebody. Help us, Jesus. We've all been there. Scrolling Amazon. Ooh, I need that. Didn't even know that was a thing. Next one is greed. And greed is one of those things that is very hard to see in the mirror. It's easy to see in big corporations. It's easy to see in others. It's easy, but it's very hard to see in the mirror. Greed says this, that it's anything that's in my hands is for me. Anything that comes my way is for my consumption. I work for this, it's all mine. And there's a desire for more, always having more. And guess what greed does? It then leads us to the third enemy of happiness, debt. Because we've got to have more, we now find ourselves in debt. And debt, let me say this. I want is better than I owe. Can y'all say that with me? Let's just try it. I want is better than I owe. You're still here? Nothing happened? You okay? Hard to come out a little bit? Yeah? I want is better than I owe. But it is. There's I want is between you and God. And you could bring that before him. And many times, Scripture communicates God gives the desires of your heart when you delight in him. Many times it's teaching you to wait, teaching you to trust. Sometimes there's a filter. Say, well, God realizes as you're praying about it, as you're waiting, as you're wanting it, but you say, no, I'm not going to do that yet. One of two things will happen. You'll either realize you don't need it, you actually never did, or it's just not the time. Or maybe it's, yeah, go ahead. Who knows what's going to happen, but it's between you and God. Versus, instead of just I want, I owe, is no longer just between you and God. It's between you, God, and a creditor. And guess whose side God is on? The creditors. Wait a minute, God, I thought you were on my side. I was. And I still am, but I was trying to tell you not to buy that in the first place, but you just weren't listening. And now I'm with you, but I'm with the creditor too. Why? Because as followers of Christ, we're called to pay back our debts. We're called to be people of our word. We're allowed to say, where we say yes, our yes should be our yes, our no should be our no. But debt is not something that we're all called to be in. Rather, the only debt that we're really called to is to be indebted to one another in love, to love one another. And so debt is one of those things that, man, it will choke. It has the ability to choke not just your finances, but so many more things, because it adds stress and it puts a demand on you, and then it adds maybe anxiety, or then you see the cycle that then affects maybe your health or your relationships. And so what does this look like? What's the recipe? I mean, here are all byproducts of if you serve money or the acquisition of stuff, and that is your master, you're going to be often discontented, finding greed within your heart, even if you can't see it, always needing more, always wanting more, which will often lead you into debt. And those three things are enemies of happiness. So stay out of debt. Maybe you're in there right now, work your way out and stop going into it, right? Next. Keep moving. But throw those three up there again. Which one of these make you happy? Seriously. Does discontentment make you happy? Does greed make you happy? Does debt make you happy? I mean, those three will make you meaner than a junkyard dog on a diet. That ain't happy. Maybe you're different. Maybe you are there. Maybe, oh yeah, you get your credit card bill. Oh, praise Jesus. I love you, Lord. Thank you so much for this. I'm looking at my credit card, but who bought that? Where'd that? Oh, no, I'm just kidding, babe. Sometimes it's me. I didn't realize. I forgot, But you're looking at, man, enemies of happiness. So, think back to what Jesus said. You cannot serve both God and money. If you were to sum up hundreds of scriptures, and there are hundreds of scriptures on money. Jesus talked about money a lot. It's in the Old Testament and New Testament. If you were to sum all of the scriptures up about money in 2 words, they would be these: generosity and wisdom. Let me ask you a question. Who are some of the most happiest people you know? I think of some of the most happiest people I know. They're incredibly generous. And they're wise. They're wise in how they manage their life, their money, their time, their relationships. They're intentional. They have priorities. They have wisdom. Help us, God, to grow in these things. Because I really believe this is the sure way to happiness. Not to hoard, but to be generous. And to grow in wisdom. Living not above or beyond our means, but living within our means. Realizing I don't need everything that I see. I don't need everything that I want. We start exercising discipline. Being self-controlled, a fruit of the Spirit. Hello. Is this too much? I looked at all this. I was looking at the notes. I said, man, there's a lot of fill in the blanks. There's a lot of stuff here today. I said, well, they can handle it. God, give us grace, Lord. But really, I'm just trying to help us. I'm trying to help us so that when we leave here today, that it's not just words that we heard, but it's something that impacts us in such a way that we shift our priorities, or we change how some of what we're living, so that it's not just us that are benefits of it, but our children are benefits of it. Come on, somebody, our children's children are benefits of it. That we teach these same principles to our kids. That we share these things because they matter. Because everyone in the world is looking for happiness. Everyone in the world is dealing with, man, who am I going to serve? Whether they phrase it in that way or not, it's a reality a question we all have to answer. How am I going to live my life? I love Jesus, who was this high road example for us. I say to your notes like this: high road living is simply to give more than you take. I don't know about you, but that's the road I want to travel on, where I'm giving more than I take. Everywhere Jesus went, he gave. He blessed. He added value to people. He healed. He helped. On the cross, he gave it all. For God so loved the world that he gave. This is everything of who God is. He is incredibly generous. Jesus himself said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. It's more blessed to give than to receive. This reveals a couple things. One, it's blessed to receive. It is. It's a blessing to receive all the blessings that we have in life. It is a blessing. But you know what's even more blessed? To give. It's more blessed to give than to receive. That word blessed means happy in the soul. Don't you like that? I want to be happy in the soul. Deep down, where it's joy just running over, overflowing. Winston Churchill said it like this: we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. We make a life by what we give. Our life is enriched by generosity, as well as the lives of those around us, by us being generous. One of the principles I learned when I was young is to give, to save, and to live. And I'm so thankful that I did. I was in high school, became a Christian. my heart was opened up to the love of God. I realized how much he loved me, that God had purpose for me, that God had a plan for me, that he loved me in a greater way that I experienced to date. And so my life was changed, and shortly after, I was introduced to this idea of tithing, where 10% of everything I make, I give to God. So I did it, just 17 years old. I heard about it, I started doing it. Years later, I'm so glad that I did and still do, because I'm blessed because of it. And this is just a principle I'm teaching to my kids now as they're starting to make money. Give first. Tithe from what God has given to you, and God will bless you and take care of you and honor you. Then save, because that's wisdom. Amen? Saving, putting something away for savings, and then live out of the rest. See, many of us have it backwards. We're living out of not just the rest, we're living out of everything, or even more than what we're bringing in. Saving? What's savings? It's what I just got on that sale at the store, saving. Yeah, no, okay. Give, that's a 4-letter word. I don't know about that, But here's what Jesus is saying. When you give, you're going to experience joy. It's more blessed to give than to receive. You will experience joy. It's a blessing to know that it's not just in your hands, but no, I'm living open-handed. I'm living open-hearted. I'm living with generosity. I say it in notes like this: when God raises my standard of living, I raise my standard of giving. Every time I've gotten a new job or I've gotten a raise, what do? I raise my standard of giving first, and then my standard of living is raised. Does that make sense? Why? Because I want to honor God first. He's the one who blessed me. I want to give it back to him in return. Next is, if you save, you're going to experience peace. Peace is a byproduct. So if the byproducts of serving money and the acquisition of stuff often leads you to discontentment, greed, and debt, no, the idea of aligning your heart and your priorities and what you do, your practices, your habits with God as your master, as the one who you serve and love, now you're going to start experiencing joy because you've learned how to give as soon as you're getting paid. Try it. You've never done this before? Try it and see what will begin to happen. Seed will begin to develop. Seed will begin to sow, and you'll start seeing the fruit develop of joy in your life. Then, as you start saving, you start experiencing peace of mind. Here's what I'll tell you won't give you peace. Debt doesn't give you peace. Greed doesn't give you peace. Discontentment will not give you peace. You know what will? Savings. Living under your means. And the next part, living, that's freedom. When you live on the rest, you're going to be free. This is biblical. This is wisdom right here. This is help. In a world and day and age where literally credit card debt is breaking records. It's in the trillions right now in America. Higher than it's ever been. More American households are in more debt than they've ever been. Friends, we've got to wake up. Something is not working. And you know what? It's filling people's lives with stress and strife. Unhealthy physically, unhealthy relationships. Why? Because they've got some things mismanaged in their finances. And it's causing problems in all these other areas. And so, experience some freedom. I would rather have joy, peace, and freedom than a new car, a new house, or some Bucks tickets. Come on, somebody. I mean, I would take Buck tickets, so if you want to give something, I'll take them, But I'd rather have joy, peace, and freedom every time over any of those things. You catch that? Those things are sustaining. They last. And the byproduct of those, man, you can't pay for that. And your relationships are enriched because you've got joy, because you have peace, because you have freedom, versus the other way around. So I say it in your notes like this: money can contribute to your happiness. It can, if you manage it well. If you manage it well, not it managing you, not it being your master. No, it being your slave, it doing what you're telling it to do, where you're trusting God and giving first, where you're saving second, where you're living out of the rest. It's not about more. If I just had more, no, it's much more about managed. If it was managed well, stewarded well, because in the end of the day, it's not really yours anyway. Everything that you have is a gift from God. Everything that you have, you'll be held accountable for on the day that you die. And you and I will give an answer to what we've done in this life with our time, with our words, and our relationships, with our finances, you name it, every area. And what we are called in this thing called life is stewards, to simply care for what is not ours, to care for what is God's, what we have been given, what we've been entrusted with. I'm preaching better than y'all are letting on. Come on, somebody. Give God a hand clap of praise. So as I prepare to close, I want to share, here's another way to put it. If you seek happiness, it will almost always disappoint and disappear. If that's your number one goal, your pursuit, it will always disappoint and disappear. But if you seek to add value to others, happiness will come to you. It'll find you. That's what Jesus said. It's more blessed to give than to receive. You're going to be happy in the soul when you're giving to others, when you're adding value to others. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love God first, and then love your neighbor as yourself. Man, there's a way that just God created it in such a way where happiness will come to you. And I'd like to talk to you just a minute more than just happiness, but about a sweet something that comes in only a divine way. It's called what we refer to as the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians. The Bible says the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. This is the fruit of the Spirit. So what does that tell me? That these things, love, joy, peace, this is simply a byproduct of a relationship with God. When you have a relationship with God, there will be the fruit, the byproduct of joy, of peace, of self-control. Let's flip it around. I did something to entertain us here for a moment, but at the same time, maybe bring some light to some things. I said, it's like this: life without God. What I did is invert those to the opposite of the fruit of the Spirit. Life without God: hate, misery, strife, prejudice, cruelty, scheming, betrayal, fury, uncontrollable passions. Any of these describe in any area of your life right now? Misery, strife, uncontrollable passions. Not a solution of just doing this is this. No, there is only one thing that satisfies, and that is Jesus, and is a growing relationship with God. Nothing else will satisfy. As Proverbs tells us, our appetites will never be quenched. We will always hunger for more. Just like death and destruction, they never lose their appetite. Neither will our human desires. They'll always crave for more, and yet we'll always be left wanting until we place Jesus in his rightful place in our hearts. And we invite him in and say, God, I need a relationship with you. And that is the beginning of the fruit of the Spirit, the beginning of what we're talking about here today.
Thank you for watching today. We post new videos weekly to bless and encourage you. Thank you also for subscribing, for when you do, it helps get this message of hope around the world. If this message has blessed you, let us know in the comments and share with a friend. And thank you for your financial support. You're helping us reach people around the world for Jesus Christ. If you'd like to give for the first time, you can check out the link below. Thank you again for watching, and we'd love to invite you to join us in person as well. God bless you.